Good afternoon, fellow animal lovers, art lovers, and artists. I'm very happy that you're here today with me to share a milestone in my art life, which has to do with art journaling. This is something I started doing about 2 years ago, and I have today completed my 4th journal. So that's the exciting event that I'm here to celebrate and share with you. I have 4. The first one I've moved recently, and it's still packed away somewhere. I don't know exactly where. But I have the others here to just show you very briefly, and then we'll get on to the 4th one. So this is the 2nd one. Front cover, back cover, tied with silk sari ribbon, and at the end of the ribbons we have some ceramic leaves that I made, and there's also some pieces covering the attachment of the ribbon to the cover. So that's journal number 2. The first one, by the way, was a smaller format. This journal and the others I'm going to show you today are made from 11 by 15 inch paper, and that first one I did was 9 by 12. So these are larger. Number 2, here we go. This is the 3rd one. The front cover, the back cover. The back cover is table of contents of what's inside. And the front cover, a drawing of an owl and an old watercolor snippet that I had, and once again, sari ribbon for the closure. And this is journal number 4, just completed. So I'd like to just run through it with you really quickly, give you a taste of it, and then in the future I'll be creating more videos where I go through the different spreads one by one. But here's the cover, and the cover is always the last thing I do for a couple of reasons. I guess primarily that while I'm working on the inside, I don't want a finished cover to be moving around on the surface and getting marred and scraped or whatever. So I save this part until last. And also, I guess the other reason is that I often, like I just said, include a table of contents on the back cover. And of course, I won't know what's in it, in the table of contents, unless and until I'm done with the whole journal. So typically I like to have a theme for my journal spreads, or in this case the cover. And the theme for this one was, we each one of us, humble or grand, stand on others' shoulders. Just a reminder, something to think about all the time, or to have in the back of our minds all the time and think about from time to time. We are not standing alone. We stand with others, those who've come before and those who are here with us now. And that all forms a web of support, without which we probably wouldn't do very well. So my original idea for the illustration was that I was going to have different animals, starting with larger ones and going up to smaller ones, but for whatever reason, in the end, I decided that I just wanted to have all sparrows. I really like sparrows. They're humble, but they're beautiful and important in their own way. Here's number 4. I have the number of the journal on the cover of each journal so far. And I like to have an embellishment of some sort. This is just a little brass stamping that I bought on Etsy. And then for closure, I'm using seam binding. You can go on Etsy and find people who sell seam binding dyed in all sorts of spectacular colors. You wouldn't know it from this ivory color, but there are so many colors available online, and has a nice feel to it. These are glued down, as is the brass stamping, with a very heavy gel medium. And I thought for a while about how am I going to attach these ribbons because, you know, I didn't have anything to cover them with, like the, well, like on this one, I put the ribbon under this piece and it just wraps around the back. And on this other one, like I showed you, I have the end of the ribbon under this little bit of ceramic, and on the back, I guess I put it between, no, I don't know what I did with this one, let's see. Anyway, we'll worry about that later. But I was wondering how to put this on. I contemplated putting holes in the cover and tying it through, but in the end I decided I didn't want to mar the spreads that are on the inside cover, so I just glued it down, and I am happy with it. I like the subtlety of the colors and also the subtlety of the drawing mixed with watercolor. This is watercolor on watercolor paper. I did the drawing with only H and a little bit of HB pencil, which are harder pencils, and then did the watercolor over it, which I could do without disturbing the pencil. When I was done with the watercolor birds, I sprayed them with workable fixative, and they were also on a separate piece of paper, not directly on the cover. They were on watercolor paper. So I did the drawing, I did the watercolor, I sprayed them with the fixative. At that point, I glued them down on the cardboard covers of the journal itself, and from there went ahead and finished with acrylic. This is acrylic paint and alcohol ink, a tiny little bit of collage here and here, and then the collage of the various papers with the titles of the spreads. So, and there's the edge, not very elegant, but you know, my sister was asking me, could I flatten this by laying it under some heavy books for a while? You know, I don't know whether I could or not, but I really kind of like it chunky and uneven and just kind of, I don't know, organic. I guess I'll use the word organic. So I just want to flip through the pages very quickly, and like I said, I'll be back in later videos to talk about the individual spreads. And I do have a video on my website about this first spread, which is Bat-Eared Foxes in the Garden of Color. I often like to find, well no, I'm gonna save the commentary for another time. So here's the second spread, the Green Wolf. The little art piece was something I've had hanging around for a while, and I finally decided to use it. And of course went with the colors that were in the original piece. This is one of my favorites, a beautiful Swiss brown cow. She's so proud because she, Queenie, has her own creamery, Queenie's Creamery. This one I call Chiaroscuro. It's just an exercise in light and dark values using images from magazines. My drawing of a raccoon who is just so happy that there's so many eggs to go through in life. I really like drawing, so more and more I find myself using my drawings as elements, or actually almost always the focal point of the spreads. And here's one of some rabbits, a white cat, I think this is the first page I did in the journal, Easy Rose Care, and I used a paper in the background that I made. I was experimenting with creating repeat patterns. Drawing I've had for a while of some foxes, decided to use it in the spread. This is the oldest, largest oak in Sherwood Forest named Major Oak. A hare. Says, be watchful, and wherever you encounter beauty, drink it in. It's sustenance for the soul. We certainly have some beautiful things on this page. Water birds. I had done a watercolor of these birds, and again, probably 5 or 6 years ago, didn't know what to do with it, so here it is in a spread. More birds, birds in blue. And another rabbit. Rabbits are, to me, really fun to draw, and I've got something a little different here with these little flaps that fold in and out. And then the last one, Beyond the Roses. A myriad enchantments unfold. Swallows all over the place, and a castle. And then we get to the end. So I hope you enjoyed that little flip through of the journal, and thank you for celebrating journal number 4. The other day I started working on creating the journal itself, the blank journal for journal number 5. So it looks like I go about 6 months for a journal, so I'll be back to show you journal number 5. By the way, there's 16, if you count the covers, there's 16 spreads in each journal, so now at the end of 4, I've done 64 journal spreads and loved every one of them. Thanks for being here, and I'd love to hear from you about your art journal experience. I'll be posting this on Facebook, and it'll also be on my website, so you will have ways in both venues to comment back to me, and I look forward to that. Thank you. Bye-bye.